Last week on the show, I discussed Prince Harry, and I wanted to start the show with him just because I received a couple of comments that were very similar in nature that I felt needed to be addressed. And some of those comments range from Harry's a hero, he's a whistleblower, and he's just telling his side of the story, to people who express great sympathy with him. Now, I, on the other hand, believe that Harry is somebody who also deserves a little bit of scorn. Now, let me be really clear. I think it's way easier for us to express scorn than sympathy. And everyone that is a child of God deserves some level of sympathy, especially a young man whose mother died and who was, on public display through some of his most difficult situations in life from a very early age. So, sure, he deserves some sympathy, but I find it hard to give a whole lot of sympathy, especially when, for instance, a lot of people just lost their parents in a very public way from COVID as a result of, most likely, a virus that was created in a lab. So I think that there should be a little bit of recognition of the fact that Harry has had a very pampered lifestyle compared to most people. And so I thought it fitting to address some of those comments, so I want to do it right here as we open the show because it will bridge the gap for everything that I want to talk about today. So there's just a couple of glaring problems with expressing great sympathy for Harry and not a little scorn. And the first one is this, is that almost everything that man has said about his family in the public is a lie. He called Rupert Murdoch evil. He said no human being in 300,000 year history of our species has done more damage to our collective sense of reality. Really? We don't even get Hitler, Stalin, Nicole Hannah-Jones. We get Rupert Murdoch. What do you expect from a guy with penis trauma?
My penis was oscillating between extremely sensitive and borderline traumatized.
He labeled the royal staff as racist when in fact it's well recorded that Meghan bullied the staff much like she probably does her own husband. And he blamed the press for a Taliban attack on a military base where he was stationed when actually the military initially released the info, not the press. And the investigations into the attack revealed that it was planned way before any of that information was ever released. He blames the paparazzi for killing his mother, but of course it later emerged that the paparazzi were nowhere near Diana when she was in her accident, and that Diana was not wearing a seatbelt, and it could have saved her life when her drunken driver lost control and crashed the Mercedes into a concrete pillar that killed both of them. And by the way, she wasn't wearing a seatbelt that could have saved her life when her drunken driver lost control and crashed that Mercedes into a concrete pillar. Most importantly, here's the second thing. Even if many of the claims that Harry makes in the book or on the regular were true, it comes from a source that shouldn't be trusted. Harry's no hero, and certainly not an intellect we should want to hear from. Heroes wear capes, by the way. They fight crime and they don't marry actresses. Oh yeah, and heroes turn hardships into character. See, Batman is a hero not only because he wears a cape, he is a hero because he does what's best about humanity. He takes tragedy and he turns it into triumph. He throws freaking batarangs and he knows karate, which is also kind of cool too. But he made himself better as a result of his difficulty. He turned his tragedy into triumph by being a better human, not by blowing the whistle on others. In a culture obsessed with equity, we've complained about meritocracy so long we no longer mind mediocrity. And so we're willing to buy 1.4 million copies of a book by a guy who complains about how hard his life has been as a freaking prince. The dude is so alarmed by difficulty because he's had such a bubble-wrapped life that he had someone write a book for him about it. By the way, he didn't write the book. You know this, right? And the book details things that the average human says, yes, I deal with this on an everyday basis. Issues with my family, substance abuse. Welcome to the human race. Our culture today is so desperate for meaning, it falls in love with anything. Cat videos and yes, the Kardashians. We should be celebrating titans of industry, intellect, people of great wisdom and skill and experience. But instead, I'm talking about this dude today. With so much railing against elites in society, I want to remind you, it's not elitism that's the problem. It's the people who make up our elite class that is the problem. Socrates suggests that a society will be determined by those it looks up to, and as a result, we need poet-philosophers for kings. But this is what we get.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Now, let me be clear. I'm not talking about mere credentialism, like people that have degrees and awards and are given notoriety simply by the people who don't deserve to give notoriety in the first place. I'm not talking about mere credentialism. George Orwell said it this way. He said, some ideas are so stupid that they can only come from the most educated people. And so I'm not kind of talking about the credentialism that just means mere paper, but I'm talking about the kind of skill and wisdom and intellect that comes from people who are truly qualified to speak on issues. I'm talking about the kind of people who have a self-evidencing quality that they know what they're talking about and deserve to be heard. And this is a problem in the church too, by the way. We've seen for far too long that cool clothes and a banging Instagram account is all that you need, rather than an ability to critically think through the doctrines of the Christian faith and explain them in a way that makes sense to people, right? Because this is the issue with people and leaving the church. I've said it many times on the show. While our culture is telling us that people are leaving Christianity because it's too judgy and it won't get with the times, the reality is the vast majority of people who are polled say they leave church because Christian pastors and Christian leaders are not equipping people with the answers that they are most desperately looking for in society. Questions like, how do faith and science coexist together? What is the ultimate meaning and purpose of life? Instead, we get skinny jeans. So no wonder the church is increasingly becoming woke, because it can't think through some of the most obvious and ridiculous notions of our woke culture. You know, we ask the questions, how can a Christian be pro-life and pro-border? Like, don't even get me started, man. But let's just say that the institutions in our society are being run with woke ideology because the vast majority of the people running them are not qualified to run them. So if we find that our institutions are being overrun by ideologues rather than hard workers and people who have a teachable mind, then we might need to reevaluate what we value. And by the way, our institutions are overrun with Nimrod. So you just got done watching a small excerpt of a much larger episode. You can find the link to that full episode down below in the description of this video. So you definitely need to check that out, because if you like that clip, you'll like the much larger episode. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and click that little bell to be notified when great new episodes of Indie Thinker come your way. Thanks for watching.